So thanks. Firstly, I'd like to thank all the speakers to kind of take out time from their busy schedules on a Monday to kind of do this. But what better day Monday to actually do this? Yeah. So thank you, Haardik. Thank you, Dhruvil and Aniket for firstly agreeing. And yeah, I think the idea behind the founder forum that we are doing and will continue to do is to kind of help people who've just either even just started projects or have been doing this for a long time, kind of share their experiences so that people who want to get into the space, people who are now in hardcore build mode, kind of get more of an idea of what they can come to expect, in the months ahead and things like that. So, just to kick things off, I think one of the first things that we can all like, I would love for everyone to kind of talk about is just like their 0 to 1 journey in their project, in their respective projects, and what that experience has been like, and what were the difficulties, what were like the gotchas or surprises that you faced in getting from just getting your project off the ground. So, Aniket, I think we'll kickstart things with you. Biconomy has been here for the longest time, I think, and
Yeah,
would be great if you could share your thoughts, man.
yeah. Thanks. Am I audible, guys?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Firstly, thanks for having me. Really excited to be here, and of course, like this is one of the best times to discuss something like this because Biconomy actually got started in a extreme bear market back in like 19 end when there was like there was no DeFi, there was no NFT, there was no VC, there was nothing, and but we were like this crypto passionate nerds, and we were like, okay, whatever's going to be happening, we see ourselves in crypto till the industry is doomed, of course, and that will never happen. And that was sort of our motivation toward the space. Um, you know, funding was like there were no VCs in the space, and for a project coming out of India, you know, trying to bootstrap or kind of get in the market, it was extremely difficult. But one thing sort of that stood out as like I think if people are very passionate about the product, not about other things, I think things will happen. So anyone honestly who's sort of starting, this is the best time for you to actually do something. Why? Like because in sort of these market conditions, most of the teams, and the team members kind of become accessible. Like in the bull market, there's a lot of noise all the time. Like it's very difficult to reach out to people because everyone is sort of doing like 100 other things. There's so many conferences, there's so many events, there's so many other activities happening. But in bull market, people are actually like there to listen to you regarding what you are exactly solving and how you can further add value to like your clients, your end users, etc. So it's a perfect time to sort of think deeply on the product statement, also the problem statement. Um, I would also say that anyone who's starting right now, not to focus or worry about token at all. Like we kind of release our token almost 3 years, post the launch, and same with Arcana as well. I think they haven't still released a token. So a lot of preconceived notions and misconception is that okay, we're starting now, like we have a token release in 6 months, what to do? Like that is extremely bullshit. Like that won't take you anywhere. Focus on the product statement, focus on the problem statement, and I'm sure things will emerge out of it. And hiring is becoming super easy right now. Getting the talent out there, and accessibility to the entire Web3 community becomes super easy. So I'm actually very optimistic, usually like overly optimistic, but same right now. That we'll be definitely seeing like more new unicorns coming out in the next 1 year who got started in the bear market.
Fantastic. So just if I could summarize, you're saying, obviously focusing on problems and their solutions is step one. And the good part about building in a bear market is that, people in general have a lot more time of day for you, as opposed to like a bull market where people are busy trading and doing 100 other things. and that hiring in this sort of market is also, from your experience, has been easier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. Hardik, we'll go to you. What's your story been like? I know you've just started up. You have a rich history in the space, of course, but if you could kind of just tell us how the last few months have been for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So Learnweb3 is kind of in a different place where it's more of a social thing, right? It's an education platform, it's a social play, community play, and we've only been around for a few months. We haven't even raised our first funding round yet, and we've kind of been building in the bear. Historically, over the last 4 or 5 years, I've been around. I've done like a bunch of different things, mostly protocol and network layer, and this is very different from that. But like my advice generally for founders starting up, like especially in the community space, is there's a lot of hype around tokens, as Aniket rightly pointed out, that especially in the bull market, a token, everybody wants to just make some money, and for some reason it's extremely common in the space to kind of do cash grabs and leave or abandon projects. So with community, I think what I found is if you really just focus on building your community from day one and take actions in your organization, in your DAO, in your whatever, which benefit the community, even if it doesn't necessarily benefit token holders, if you have token holders, in the long term, that tends to work out better. LearnWeb3 started off as a very small experiment with like 20 people in a Discord, just teaching them what the heck is blockchain, right? They're coming from Web2 backgrounds, they're coming from no programming experience backgrounds. And in the last 4 months, what we grew to over 30,000 students now. And this is all because of like the mentality, the mindset of Web3, giving back to community, really focusing on community. And I think that should be true for anyone who's kind of in that space, and anyone who's like looking to build DAOs or communities or not doing like protocol stuff. Um, but yeah, that's basically my 2 cents on that. I know on like protocol layers, things work a little bit differently, and I have people who are building in that space as founders on the call who can give you better advice there. But yeah.
Could you also have just speak to some of like the challenges you faced in the last few months since you started up?
I mean, the biggest challenge is kind of just like filtering through the noise. There's we kind of like when we started, the bull market was like still kind of happening. It was coming close to an end, so we kind of were there for the transition period, and the quality of people in the community significantly changed, right? There was a lot of people trying to chase trends, trying to chase NFTs, people who'd join, people who'd leave, go out, try to make their own NFT collections, make a quick buck. And from there, like switching to people who are like more interested in fundamentals, or I mean, it was kind of a good thing for us actually that this happened. But yeah, other than that, the main challenges we've kind of seen around is with the bear market, if you're trying to do something community related, generally there is less hype or less people interested in this space because less people are hearing about it. It's not about interest, but less people are hearing about it and less people are trying to get involved. So for community based plays, growth can actually end up getting a little bit slower. The quality will be better, but the numbers might get a little bit slower in this market. And we rely a lot on sort of partnerships and things like that. And essentially, like in bear markets, treasuries of DAOs and treasuries go down a lot, right? Like Uniswap went from what 90 billion something to I think like a third of that. I don't know if I'm remembering that correctly, but something like that. The treasury got like one third of what it was, and that affects the market overall, right? It doesn't matter maybe as much again in protocol based plays, but in community based plays, the growth numbers go down. You have to really try to keep the quality up, keep the people who are there, keep the people who are active and retain them, and give them back the value that they came for. So that's really, I think, it's kind of a challenge. It's also something, I mean, that should be happening. This should you should be ideally doing. But yeah, does that answer your question? It's kind of roundabout.
No, pretty much, man. So just if I could abstract it, you're saying, there's lots of noise, so focus on quality over quantity, filter out the noise, focus, of course, on community, and how you focus and you help your community grow is you just limitlessly give. Great. So, yeah, Dhruvil, can you tell us more about your journey at Liminal from going from 0 to 1?
Sure. So Liminal is just a year old now. I think we just celebrated our first anniversary last week. So we are basically a multi-sig wallet provider for Web3 projects and crypto exchanges and HNIs. We have kind of completed our product development. So the last 1 year was basically we were building our product to make it secure so that your big institutes and clients can use it. So when we were starting Liminal, we saw that a lot of people from Web2 world want to switch to the Web3 world, but a wallet has been a very big choke point when when they want to move it. A crypto wallet is not something that anyone from the Web2 world understands, and it is one of the very big things that people generally lack on. And if they're doing it, they're not doing it in a very good manner. So at the end, what happens is people, the funds get stolen or the hack, and eventually it brings a bad name to the community and everyone. So when we were starting Liminal, we thought how to make it in such a way that Web2 people can understand it, and Web2 people can go and transact on it. At Liminal, our aim has just been how to make it extremely easy so you can store and transact this digital asset. The digital assets can be anything like Bitcoin, Ether, tokens, or NFTs. Last year the hiring has been like very, very difficult. So we started at the top of the bull run. If it is end of bull run, we started at the top of the bull run, and at that point the salaries and everything was very inflated. It was very difficult to get people. I think the situation is improving right now. One challenge that we're facing right now, of course, is we see that the bear market might be coming, so we are kind of everyone is kind of making sure that they're making cuts on the spends that they're doing. So our sales cycles are kind of getting longer, and internally also we want to make sure we survive this bear market. So we have also reviewing a lot of things internally and make sure that we become cash flow positive and we bolster our balance sheets.
Great. So if I can quickly summarize, you're saying that you guys are obviously focusing on a very clear-cut problem, and then consequently you guys have launched product. You've seen hiring becoming slightly easier, and if I'm not wrong, you're also saying you need to have your eye on the money, because this could be like basically the start of the bear market, and this could take some time. So we should all be fairly careful of things there, right?
Yeah.
Great. So if I may, I'll ask my co-founder Aravindh to kind of speak to some of the issues that we saw. And yeah, Aravindh,
Thanks, Mayur.
what problems did we face?
Yeah, all the problems that we have seen alongside for the last 3-4 years. Firstly, thanks to all the speakers who have joined us today. Really great to be able to put this together. So when we started in 2019, that's also when another bear market was ending. It depends on who you ask. Some say it's ended, some say it just started, but it did last for about a year from when we started. And we always wanted to be product first. So we put out a beta, try to validate some hypothesis. Back then we were called Newfang, and realized that there were some key indicators about the space we're in that the bigger players weren't looking at. And that helped us save quite a bit of time down the road because we realized that we could go down this path, spend another 2 years, try to gain traction, but the market wouldn't grow to the size that we wanted it to be. Right. And then we tested with our own platform of small POC and spent about another 6 months building this and launched it uh, towards the end of 2020. And most of our new hypotheses that we wanted to validate came true through that. And then launched Arcana early 21. And then since then, it's been like a rocket ship where it's just been able to grow the team, raise money, get early traction in customers. And I think the biggest challenge was separating the noise from long-term goals versus short-term, so that we are not tied to the market cycles to hit some milestones, but to what really matters to your customers and the time that will take to deliver them. Right, and I think the remaining are around hiring, like others mentioned, and being able to really find teammates who believe in the same vision and not just motivated by the quick churn of tokens and unlocks and other narratives that are very easy to get wrapped up in.
Got it. More of filtering out noise and looking at big picture, perhaps.
Big picture, product market fit.
Got it. Great. So now that we have like personal insights from each and every one of our speakers on their like sort of early days 0 to 1 journeys, the challenges they've met, probably suitable to kind of talk about what are the things that aspiring founders and builders should essentially focus on, right? So what are like areas that are, you could say, are like blue chip evergreen in the space, or what are areas that you guys, in your opinion, feel like could actually become like the next thing in the space? So yeah, Aniket, you want to go first?
Yeah, can definitely. Maybe I'll be having some biasness also, but that's all good. um, Definitely, I think when we kind of see the space as well, till 2019 or 2020 mid-ish, it was still an experiment, where the major use case of Ethereum or any blockchain was majorly like ICOs or like for Bitcoin, which is store of value. But like mid 2020 is when we kind of saw like, okay, new use cases started emerging out of it, right? Like DeFi was becoming the forefront of how the future of finance should look like. Then gaming emerged, NFT emerged, and I'll say this is just an alpha, like last year or two, is what does the possibility of how we use different applications right now and how we'll be using in the next couple of years. So regarding the opportunity, it's immense. Like you call it anything. Like if you want to build like more user-facing applications, uh, DeFi still is sort of used with only like few set of users who are crypto savvy, right? Like if you ask my mom, like she'll never use Curve, she'll never use Aave, but using all these protocols, we can definitely create like more and more user-facing applications. There's like a huge blue ocean over there. How do we make DeFi more accessible, like to mainstream audience out there, and make like user-friendly applications. Like if people are more interested in building like B2C applications, and same with gaming and NFTs as well. Like in terms of creator economy, artists. How the interaction can be, and how we can create like more channels for artists, etc. To directly communicate with end users, and tap into different niches as well. Definitely seeing like more and more Web2 users sort of entering the space over the last 1 year. So the projects who gonna be helping bridging that out, either by getting into the infra space, that is where Arcana and Biconomy sort of place, where we are sort of building the infra that is definitely going to be helpful for people to enter the space, and also like make it extremely simple for anyone to use all these applications. I think that is something that is another possibility to get into the B2B space. And like as I said, like B2C space definitely having more user facing DeFi, gaming, etc. applications. So I'll say just the starting. I mean, we have just seen like what exact potential of this, and now it's on us or the emerging entrepreneurs to take it to the masses. So we have definitely seen like how the experiment gonna be with like few set of customers, like people who just gonna be using it, who are crypto savvy users. But how do you take it from crypto savvy to the mainstream as something, you know? I feel like there's a huge opportunity either from the builder space who are more on the B2B side or B2C side of things. So next 5 to 6 years, we're definitely gonna be seeing like at least like a billion users in the space, and that's something we at Biconomy is something powering.
Fantastic. All your bias is most welcome, especially with us. So essentially, build more user-friendly interfaces, use infrastructure that will allow you to kind of build on top of existing protocols, so that we can actually usher in the next billion Web3 users.
Exactly,
Great.
and also to power, like more builders. Biconomy launched like a $2 million DAO grant program. So anyone out there who just wants to like experiment something, get into the Web3, get their hands dirty, we're definitely happy to support. You guys just like hit me up, and we'll be sharing like more details on that.
Fantastic, guys. You heard it here first. $2 million grant for people who want to build with Biconomy, build friendlier applications for the new age of Web3. Fantastic. Thanks for the alpha, Aniket.
Thank you.
Dhruvil, what do you see standing the test of time in this space, man? Or what do you see as up and coming and we should all definitely look out for?
Sure. So like we all want the next billion people to come from the Web 2 to the Web 3. One thing that we're missing is we cannot expect this next billion users to create this 12 and 24 word phrase seeds and put it into a drawer or put it into a locker or bury it under a rock and make sure that it doesn't go away. If it goes away, like all of your life savings are gone. So the next, so it is very similar to infrastructure. Of course, we need infrastructure. On top of that, we also need the next gen of wallet. This next gen of wallet should be user friendly, so next people are able to onboard it without having to know what crypto is, what a seed is, what a private key is, and to make sure that this wallet is not something where if you forget your whatever, if you forget a mobile, if your mobile is lost, you don't lose excess of your funds. So I think this is going to be something that is going to decide how the people are going to onboard and who is going to get hold of this customers. So I think wallet is a space that we need to look out for on this.
100% agree. So essentially, the on ramp from Web 2 to Web 3 is usually a wallet, and how do you simplify that experience? Guys, if you're listening in, this is the stuff that you need to start focusing on. Haardik.
Yeah, so in my opinion, we're talking about onboarding the next million users to Web3, right? Along with that, I think users, but also developers, right? Ethereum has been saying ever since I got into Ethereum 5 years ago, I remember going to these conferences and they were always like, oh, we need to do things that onboard the first million devs into the space. And based on the recent reports I've seen, based on the recent sort of some data crunching that's been happening, we're still far away from that. And we're like quite far away from that, actually, like significantly. So both developers and users kind of need to come together to help build this future, but also sort of to clear out this problem. Like whenever I talk to Web 2 people or I talk to people outside this sort of bubble we tend to live in, a lot of them, a significant majority of them, still think all of this is a scam. All of this is just a huge Ponzi and it's not worth it. And it's more surprising when it comes from developers and stuff, right? Like well-known people in the space. I don't want to call out any specific names, but maybe you guys have seen the report that flew around a few days ago, well-known developers in the space still saying all of this is bullshit and all of this is a scam. And part of it's our fault, part of it's sort of the fault of the people who've been building in this space, where we haven't made the best effort to help educate. But at the same time, like, you had to put a lot of time into building stuff. So, I mean, is it really the responsibility of us? But regardless, I mean, our goal at Learnweb3 is to kind of help do that, but also for on the user's perspective, there's a bunch of cool new things going on with Rabbit Hole and Layer 3 and all of these guys. They're doing helping onboard users and really gamifying that entire experience and switching from the mindset of what this kind of thing would look like in Web 2, where education would usually be, okay, you go pay for a course, and if you've heard about it already, you maybe pay for it, or you download like a pirated version, and you try to learn it to get like some sort of certification for your resume. Or on the user side, it would just be a shit ton of paid marketing and paid ads, or just like, yeah, just mainly ads for user acquisition on the user side. And Web3 is kind of flipping that over its head, where it's like, oh no, you come here and instead we'll educate you and we'll pay you to be educated, because that's how fucking important it is right now. And on the user side as well, you come here, you interact with these dApps, you play around with these protocols, and we'll give you stuff to do that, because that's how early we are and because that's how important all of this still is, and not enough people are doing it right now. And I think that's something, the entire social side that kind of popped off mid last year-ish. The social side is going to become much more important. I think a lot of core protocols, a lot of great engineering teams have built out some great, great, great things in this space. And now it's time to really focus on users and developers acquisition. Apart from that, I think the earlier question was like advice about sort of how do you learn from these mistakes, or how do you learn from these things. um, at least from a social play, this is not easy to do on protocol level, but in a social play, my advice there is just do a lot of experiments and iterate really fast. Like, we've had days where doing like 10 new things every week, 10 new experiments every week, whatever it may be, and just crunching the numbers, seeing what people like the most, seeing what they love the most, and doubling down on those things. And we still do it. So I think that's I think this entire space, the social aspect of it, is going to get much bigger right now.
Got it. So your question is, we need to. Your point is basically we need to worry about the devs, because these are, by extension of whatever you just said, are the people who are going to actually make it possible for the next generation of people to come in. So build stuff that helps devs kind of realize that the space is not all scam, not all Ponzi, and so through education, you actually kind of get more and more people to come and start building in this space, and we'll indirectly kind of start getting more users. Great. So yeah, Arvind, you want to take a stab at this, man? Arvind, you there, bro? Okay. Some problems there. We'll circle back to Arvind in a bit. So yeah, since we're on the subject of devs, right, and probably Haardik, you can go first. Is what would you kind of, what's your pitch to a Web2 dev who wants to kind of get into this space? What's the pitch, firstly? And actually, let's just start with that and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, I think the pitch comes after. I think it's first about how do you hook them in, right? There's a couple of different hooks that tend to work really well, and maybe they're not the best things to be advertising, but you need a hook to get people interested. So one tends to be um, the ratio of supply and demand of developers. And that attracts a lot of like younger people who are struggling to like maybe like they've graduated and they don't know where to work, and that's like a really effective hook for younger people, just talking about demand versus supply. And there are other hooks like this works for a relatively smaller number of people, but hooks around, okay, like things like fighting the power almost, right? Like decentralization and the value of it and why this was created and where this is going to go. So I mean, there's like a few different hooks like this. Once you hook someone in, the pitch really is about trying to make them understand a lot of different surface area, but kind of in an unbiased way where they can make their own sort of judgments. So different people have different interests, right? Like personally, my favorite thing out of everything that happens in Web3, and personally, my favorite thing is decentralized identity. And that's just because of like my personal background, personal experiences that I'm attracted to that space. And it's about kind of giving them access, giving them sort of peeks into the potential of these different verticals of the space. And once they've like taken a peek at it, they typically tend to get on some sort of like, they have like some one or two things that they connect with more than others. And typically this would happen ideally through like interactive sessions, right? Either you're doing like a Twitter space, something like this, or you're doing like a workshop somewhere, or you're doing like a live stream or talks or things like that, where people are actually listening and people are interested in what you have to say. And once they have that hook, once they have that, okay, shit, this sounds interesting, this XYZ thing sounds interesting, you give them a pathway to kind of go from thinking it's interesting to then talking about in more detail about its potential, its use cases, its implementations, all the work that's going on in the space, all the sort of challenges we've seen. I mean, there are definitely fields in the space that have very clear problems, right? Like people don't think NFTs are a scam for no reason at all. It is because there's like a shit ton of them that did actually do a scam or did actually rug pulled, or like DAOs with sort of briberies going on and people not caring about voting and malicious proposals being passed because someone has like 2, 3, 4% of the token supply and nobody else cares to look at the proposals. So there are like real problems in this space that kind of build these stereotypes up. Like stereotypes are never born without a reason. So kind of talking about them openly, saying that, okay, like we know we're not perfect, and we see these problems, like you're not the only one who sees these problems internally as well. People in Web3 realize that these problems exist, but here's the things that are working on, like people are working on to help them get better, to solve these problems. And as a developer, if you were to enter the space, here are the things you can do to like do your part and contribute your part into making this problem better. And at that point, if you can like build that personal connection, that personal sort of thing with them, that okay, there's problems externally, I've heard about XYZ problems and I thought everyone in this space was stupid or just like one of the richer people just trying to scam others. But that's not really the case. There are people who care about this, there are people who understand these problems exist, and there are people working on trying to solve them. And it's just a byproduct of being an early space and a smaller space. And that kind of generally, yeah, that's how I would go about it, I guess. And that kind of helps people understand, okay, it's not all a scam.
Got it. So you're what you're essentially saying is that you lure them in with the philosophy of Web3 and decentralization in general, and then you basically engage them in good faith discussions about genuine problems in the space, and you kind of the sinker is essentially that you basically get them to work on these sorts of problems because
Yeah, and I mean, just to add on that, like the reason I think this is also important is because in Web 2, companies and corporations have historically done a really bad job at this. Um, Google would never come out, or Facebook would never come out saying, oh shit, we made a mistake when we started tracking all your users' data and now it's so bad. They don't do that. They don't engage in those discussions. They're not open about the problems they're having, even if internally they're aware of them. Jack at Twitter has been maybe a little bit open about it recently, where he regrets doing certain actions at Twitter, but it's not common that people are accepting their mistakes, and that's kind of what allows us to, in Web3, like, we can do that. We can be open about it, and if we are open about it, people are attracted to honesty.
Got it. Great. I think those are excellent points. Aniket, in general, outside of like just the developer ecosystem, right? You guys have obviously grown from strength to strength in terms of like your team. I know you guys have hired many people across functions. So and a lot of them are people from Web2. I know this because we've discussed this. And so if you were to kind of tell people that this is what you can come to expect working at a place like Biconomy or any kind of like Web3 startup to a Web2 guy, what are the key differences? And this could be across functions, not only devs.
Yeah, very, very good question. Fortunately, over the last, I'll say 1 year, the sort of a pitch of Web3 versus Web2 is not that prominent. Like I feel, I'm sure like the fellow speakers must have also seen that a lot of Web2 people, talent is sort of coming into the space. So people are sort of convinced that they want to do Web2, but the problem I see right now is that they don't know what they have to do. Like people are like, okay, they want to get into the Web2 space, but they have no idea how to get started and what actually they should be doing and what they should be actually expecting out of it. Then I kind of like look at these people into like many aspects. Like one is like, um let's say some established company. So having like an example of Biconomy, Dolce Gabbana. I'm sure many of you must be familiar about. They wanted to do something in Web2, but they had sort of no idea what they'll be doing. So we kind of sat with them and we kind of understood the problem statement, and then we sort of developed product for them that can be helpful in terms of improving the customer engagement. So in that regard, like established companies are, if they want to do something in Web3, or like if we are like get more familiar about what's happening, I think it's very important to sort of understand again like the problem statement and sort of what exactly Web2 is not able to do. Like in that case, they were not actually able to reach to customers in different part of the world. Like they wanted to do it more efficiently and also in a cost friendly way, and like definitely NFTs help in that. Um, let's say like if we are sort of pitching to like a normal developer who's sort of like switching from Web2 to Web3, um, I think one thing I would say like Web3 is very much, that's very different from Web2 companies, that the community aspect of every company, like all these Twitter sessions and all these AMAs and sort of the autonomy that Web3 companies provide to over a Web2 companies is something that cannot be matched, because there's so much to do, and there's no benchmarks. At this point of time, people are sort of trying to create all these benchmarks, but still it's a very, very wide open space. Whereas in Web2, like there's most of the companies are not very open about things, and this community sort of approach is definitely not there. So that is something that excites a lot of people, and gives them sort of personal and financial freedom as well, in terms of explore and see like how they can look at things from a different perspective. For a developer, let's say he's just like wants to see like what Web3 is all about, and whether Web3 is the right fit for him or not. The first thing I suggest is that like you shouldn't come here just for money. Like there's a misconception that Web3 companies pay well, and you can make really good money. uh, that is true. Like Web3 companies do pay above market Web2 average, but that is not the only reason why like developers should be coming into space. Another thing I always recommend is like join a hackathon. Fortunately, every I'll say every week or bi-weekly, like there's some hackathon organized by like many famous organization, Eat Global, etc., Deffolio from India. So anyone who wants to get a feel of what Web3 is all about, I think hackathon is the best place to see whether Web3 is fit for them or not. So these are like some of the advice I sort of give to people who are trying to make a transition. But definitely, I'll say like call it marketing, call it like the what we have all built over the last 2 years. I'm seeing that the pitch why Web3 is not very much needed at this point of time. You know, that is already like people are sort of getting convinced that okay, Web3 is something they want to experiment, but they have no idea like what to do there.
Got it. So not so much of a pitch, but more from like on the hiring side. It's about coming in with the right intentions and also kind of doing some proof of work in a sense before you actually just straight jump in.
Exactly.
Got it. Thanks. Dhruvil, I know you're a tech guy. You obviously kind of done hiring at Liminal. What are some of the things that you've had to kind of encounter when speaking to people who you've either interviewed or eventually recruited to tell them that this is how this space is different, or did you even need to have that conversation?
So like what I see the challenge is, these people, they're coming from the Web2 are of course very good developers. They know how to do it in the Web2 space. So what we're trying to do is, what we should try to do combinedly is, make the Web3 ecosystem and make the Web3 onboarding process such a way that it is seamless for Web2 developers. Let's take an example of, let's say all of the Web2 people can go and integrate a Visa or MasterCard or anything for the website and payment services, right? They don't need to know how Visa works or how MasterCard works internally. Let's say if someone wants to integrate, let's say Ethereum, and we're going to have a multi-chain future that like everyone is on the same page on that. We just won't have like Ethereum. We have Ethereum, maybe Solana, maybe Matic, and a lot of these different chains. We cannot expect a dev to understand how Ethereum works, how Solana works, how everything works. Just as Visa and MasterCard abstracted how the payment hopping works, how the bank settlements and everything works, we need to find a way to abstract these things for the Web2 guys, so they don't have to get into the nitty-gritties of how Ethereum gas works, how Ethereum nonce management works, how UTXO works in Bitcoin. We abstract these things away from them. Now the only thing they need to learn is a new language. Let's say they want to integrate on Ethereum, they need to learn Solidity, and that's all. All of the infrastructure part should be abstracted away from them. That is how we get the next set of developers easily onboarded on Web3. There shouldn't be a Web3, Web2. They just have to learn a new programming language like Solidity, which they do on a fairly recurring basis. Every good developer keeps on learning new languages. So this is just one of the things they do. You abstract all of the infrastructure from them, and you'll have a lot of new developers jumping in.
Fantastic. I think that's great advice. But to also like quickly, I think to your point, I think what you were also trying to say perhaps is that in Web2, you have ready-made abstractions and it's easier for devs where they don't really have to kind of try and figure out how the internal workings of something is. But in Web3, those abstractions don't currently exist necessarily. And so understanding of what's underlying and how it works and how it could probably come back and bite you in the ass tomorrow. So decisions today have to be that much more like well thought out and things like that. Would that be accurate, Dhruvil?
Correct. And that is where Liminal and Biconomy, we all come in. So we're going to help this transition.
Fantastic. Thank you. Aravindh, what are your 2 cents to people joining this space?
Thanks, man. I guess my internet issues are now fixed. One is the newer people who have joined, especially in the last 6 months that I've seen, from personally interviewing for all the roles we're filling to helping them join some of our partners, is they just look at pay in isolation without looking at it as it's a risk-adjusted pay, right? But even though it's higher now, it could just as much be non-existent tomorrow or go on much lower versus joining another company. And second is just treating it as another set of activities that a startup does without actually undergoing a mind shift change in Web 2 versus Web 3 of what a user means, what the community means, and what does growth look like, and how revenue numbers and metrics are different for each area. So that is important because not just the skills that are needed for your role, you'll also have to bring in new skills that you might be the first person to learn them, right? So then you might not have the resources available to do it. For example, if you're doing developer relations for, say, CodeChef or HackerRank or any of the other platforms versus Web 2 agency versus a Web 3 project, the kind of developers you need to attract will be different, right? And the motivations will be different. You will probably find more developers who are looking to become future builders in a Web3 hackathon than you would in a Web2 hackathon, right? Then you need to have the right funnel for them post the hackathon to support and feed it back into the ecosystem. And these are very first principle thoughts, so it's definitely more challenging. The second is looking at career itself, right? In Web2, you would have someone join a role, perhaps look at it as a project or as a long-term career, and just get better at the skill, save money, and start their own business or retire, etc. But in Web3, it's more closer to open source than it is to a traditional corporation, right? Especially now with all projects wanting to become DAOs or public goods like Arcana, then what you end up having is the flexibility that comes with it and also the responsibility. The team structures might be more chaotic. You would have to be more effective at communication and managing your time and showcasing your skills versus being part of a team that just works towards product releases. Right. The advantage of this is that for people who want to work remotely, have diverse experiences across different projects, this is great because most projects that we know of do not have physical offices, right, or work out of a single region. So that's a plus. The second is if you're interested in open source, you will not have to be treated as this unrecognized labor, right? Like last year, we came across how some of the core contributors for OpenPGP are still struggling to survive because there's not enough contributors who are sponsoring them, right? But in Web3 offers a very seamless model for compensating people who are contributing to core protocols of the next internet. So there are plus and minuses for both, but I think there is a lot more divergent opportunities than just looking at it as another alternative technology that's come up like say AI, ML, etc.
Got it. Thanks so much, man. Just in the interest of time, we'll just have the last word from each of our speakers, and then we'll just probably take just a couple of questions. Maybe Arvind, while you're still here, just the one-liner of what builders, designers, non-tech folks looking for jobs, or even like people who are aspiring founders, what's your one line of advice in this bear market for them to kind of follow to be able to kind of either get a great job or to kickstart their projects?
Join a DAO and vibe with them and attend conferences and meetups that you come across.
Cool, great. Haardik?
My advice would be build a community inside of a community. So it's kind of similar to joining a DAO. But basically, what I'm trying to say is find, even as a builder, even if you're building your own community or want to build your own community, first build it within someone else's community. Like join, as if you're like a developer, join Learnweb3, join Developer DAO, join Build Space, whatever, and start building your community there. Be active, get known in the space, go to hackathons, find a team, have a close group of people you can bounce ideas off of, and then kind of start on your journey building your own community and stuff. And I find that generally helps a lot. Yeah.
Super. Yeah, Dhruvil.
To the founders, my advice in this bear market would be, spend every dollar as if it is your last. Get a product market fit and adapt quickly.
Fantastic. Last word to you, Aniket.
Yeah. For the devs, I'll say just get your hands dirty, start learning, like start contributing to all these open source communities, participate in hackathons, and like of course it's a time to learn. For marketers, content writers, and like other folks, I would just say like there's firstly learn about what exactly the space is and get a bit into the technical details as well, because that helps a lot. And stay away from trading. Honestly, there are a lot of people just come in and they like then they learn about something and the only thing they do is like swap tokens. Like stay away from trading. Start contributing and learning.
Great. Fantastic, man. Thank you guys so much. I think we have 5 minutes, so we'll just take like 2 questions, maybe 3. So if you can just make your request, we'll just bring you on stage then.
Yeah, man, you can go ahead.
Aman, you're on mute, brother. If you have
Wait,
a question.
is my audible? I am audible.
Yes, you are.
Sir, my question is about community building, like how to reach more founders in this space and build a great community. Like I am working on a platform to connect founders on a video chat with the random founders like that.
Yeah. Haardik. Yeah, man, you already have your hand up. Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, community building, I'll just repeat what I said earlier. First, build your own sort of mini community, like a personal branding almost. Build your own sort of mini community in somebody else's community, right? Like, get active. Either it's on Twitter, either like build on Twitter, interact with a lot of people, build an audience, or join Discords, join DAOs, join Discords, talk to people, be active, engage with them. And then when you like start sort of selling your product, like not selling but like when you launch your product, like you'll have the first 10, 50, 100 users who you can like show off to, and sorry, who you can show off to and kind of like get started with and get that initial feedback that will drive later adoption. That's my advice, and that's kind of what we did at Learnweb3 as well. Now grew to like over 30,000 now.
Okay, I got it. Means I have to active in community like that.
Like people need
Yeah. I
to
think
know
that's what.
your project.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, Anuj, you want to go next,
Hello,
man?
and hello everyone. Uh, I have a question, sir. The question is that if you are a modern stack developer, so what will be the good roadmap for that to move in a Web 3.0?
Dhruvil, why don't you take this, man? You are the tech guy.
Sure. So I recommend everyone to start with one blockchain. It can be either Bitcoin, it can be either Ethereum. Ethereum, generally, I ask people to start with. Ethereum has very good documentation around how to do a transaction, what are dApps, how the transaction structure and everything works. Try to run your own full node, of course, on the testnet network. Try to get your hands dirty. There is already documentation, everything available to, let's say, integrating Compound or Uniswap and things like that. Once you start building something, figure out a problem that would help, let's say, just only you're doing something, and let's say you want to automate this in the Web3 world. Try to find out a problem that needs to be solved. It can be something personal also, it can be something that is going to help all of the other people also, but it can be very, very small. Don't focus on the UI UX at this point. Just try to go ahead and build something in the Web3. Once you build something that works, you'll get the dopamine hit, and after that, you'll be into this, and you won't be able to get out of the Web3 world.
And what would be a good for Solidity, either Web 3.0 JS, Web 3 JS.
Yes,
Sorry.
you can start with Web3.js. I would also recommend a book by Andreas called Mastering Ethereum and Mastering Bitcoin. You should, of course, read both of these books.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Great.
Hi.
Vishal? Yes.
Yeah. So my question was everyone says be active in community. So can you give some tips, because I've been trying to be active in community, and I can see it is not kind of open. So if there is any tips and how to be active in community and make connections, meaningful connections. So is there any tips and kind of that?
Aniket, how does one remain active in a community? What are the things that a person would need to do to be considered active?
I think firstly is learning which community you are sort of active in right now. I think learning about it is very important, because we also have a community in Biconomy, and a lot of people are sort of active, so they know what we are building, and what exactly is Biconomy. So a lot of people come in just ask about token prices and all. So that is not being active. Whereas if you can be more specific regarding what is your interest, and also I think the best thing in Web3 is that people are very much acceptable. Even if you don't know much, you can sort of reach out to founders or admins that that's something you want to learn, and people will be very much welcoming for that. So establish a niche. Let's say you are a good content writer, and there's a community XYZ Arcana community, let's say, for example. So write something on Arcana, post in the group. I'm pretty much sure founders will be reaching out to you, or admins will be reaching out to you and congratulating, and also helping you and giving you more opportunities over there. So first establish your niche and just start building on it, and also not to focus on too many communities, right? Just focus on one or two, something of your interest, and just double down on that. Does it help?
Great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, thank you guys so much. I'm sorry we can't take any more questions. It's just past the time. Haardik, I know you have your hand up. I'm sorry, buddy. Vishal, please connect with Haardik. I'm sure he'll have a lot of insights for how you can be active in a community. I mean, Haardik is your community guy to reach out to. But yeah, thank you all. Thank you especially to the speakers, Dhruvil, Haardik, Aniket, Aravindh. Thank you guys. I hope this was all worth your time. Have a fantastic day and week ahead.